Hello, my Richies, and welcome back to another episode of the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sarah. I'm your host. And in today's episode, we are discussing the psychology of purpose. How do we go about finding our path while working with our brain and our psyche to get there in a smooth manner and an authentic manner? There was such a big time in my life where I absolutely lived in avoidance of myself. And I will say there were so many habits and patterns and things that were absolutely no longer serving me, fairly certain they never did. But I was beginning to become aware of them. And this started happening around 2010. And I kind of coined this as the time where I started my spiritual journey that has now led to a faith journey. I recognize now in looking back, there are so many insane connections that have led me to the place that I am with who I am in myself, the growth that I've gone through, the changes I've made, the spiritual growth I've had, the self-love I've been able to cultivate, and now entering into a faith journey and getting to know God and what that means for me and how it relates to my life. I couldn't have gotten to this place, especially being a person that grew up with no faith in the home, without first taking a really solid look at not only my purpose, but the psychology behind my purpose and whether or not it was truly one that was meant for me, or was it something that I was chasing or working towards or believing I needed because of deep wounds in myself that had not yet been healed. In finding your path and recognizing that there is a purpose for all of us and each and every one of us has our own individual purpose, you're going to find that even if you don't know what your purpose is, beginning to think about it, you will start to notice how quickly the world is just happening day by day by day, just flying by with so much haste and worry and hurry, 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 all for the greater deficit, I feel, of not only humanity, but the way in which we're able to love ourselves and subsequently love each other. And there's so much to be said about when you do find your purpose, you really are able to slow down your world and make it a more authentic and aligned experience that you get to live moment by moment, day by day. So within today's episode, we're going to cover a couple of points. The first, understanding purpose. Why is it important to us, and specifically important to us as humans? What are some barriers to finding your purpose? Because this took a while for me. And I think because of the consumer society we live in, a lot of us are forced to believe that our purpose is tied to making money or a profession. It's not always the case. We're also going to talk about practical strategies for discovering your purpose. And then finally, living with your purpose daily and being able to integrate that into your life and all of the shaping and growth and expansion that comes with it. So if you are new around here, we absolutely love to tackle the big conversations. We want to tackle the big topics because I'm a person that just likes facts. If I've got facts, things are less scary. And in 2010, when I started my, we'll call it spiritual self-growth journey, I was so freaking scared. So your girl was absorbing a lot. But the one thing I did not absorb at any point within, a 10-year time frame on that journey was therapy. But absent of therapy, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of documentaries about the brain, mindset, cognitive behavioral therapy, utilizing nature to help yourself out of anxiety periods, depression periods. Like, I went in. And within this process, I realized that my brain was like a working dog. Without a task, it runs amok. It runs wild. It is constantly up and down, manic, crazy. It needs a task to focus on. And I kept finding myself racing, anxiety, panic attacks, bouts of depression. And it came to me that without having a focal point for my life, my purpose, I was spinning my wheels and making myself pretty upset in the process. And if this resonates with you and you're like, okay, I know that feeling, I understand that, then you may be in a position to start looking for your purpose and giving yourself that foundation to not only be able to anchor onto during those moments that can feel so racy and just out of frame, but it gives you the ability to start slowly building up who it is inside of you that you rely upon, that you create wonderful systems for that support you, and then ultimately lead you to a place where you are ready to connect with the greater good, higher powers. Now, within understanding your purpose, there's a couple of things I want to iterate, because for me, I went through this where I was like, okay, well, my purpose are goals. So I'd set these crazy goals. I'm going to start running and I'm going to do the Broad Street Marathon. Or Broad Street Run, 10 miles. I did do that. It was awesome. But like setting goals like that, I thought was my purpose. And it was a great flex and it was great exercise, get those muscles stronger to be in a position to work on harder tasks in the future. But I became really confused between goals, passion, and purpose. My goals were things I would set for myself that felt hard, challenging, out of my comfort zone to just stretch the experiences that I was comfortable with and making myself a little bit more comfortable with different scenarios, different expressions of life that I before been avoiding or ignoring. Passion is what lights you up when you do a certain thing or interact with a certain person or read a certain book or hear a certain song. And you'll find yourself in places where, sorry guys, got a little cotton mouth. I love God and I love weed, you know? If you're new here, it's a tip for you. Little cotton mouth. So your passion is the emotion that you feel inside that lights your soul up when something you're interacting with that is completely meant for you just interacts with you and lights you up. You can feel passion while doing your purpose, and most often that's how you come to know that it is your purpose, because you are feeling these emotions that you would typically associate with something else like success or achievement or just pride in yourself, and not pride that's going to take us down like a dangerous road, but pride in the fact that like you set something hard in front of yourself, like a challenge, you achieved it, you accepted that you had a purpose in front of you and it was something that you were ready to start taking on. And like, yeah, the passion that gets lit up inside of you in those moments where you choose yes, when you choose your purpose, is going to feel a lot different than most things that you're doing within your day. And that's what comes to help you figure out what your purpose is. Now, for me, my purpose was acting as an internal compass during some really big life transitions, one that started in 2010. And upon finding my purpose, which at the time simply became getting a little bit happier and a little bit more comfortable every day. That was the only goal I set for myself because I was crawling in my skin 24/7. I had no home because I had no home in myself. I was completely disrupted. Also, during this period of time, I was a big club kid. If you're a youngin', you may not remember those days. If you're older, shout out to my club peeps. One of the greatest times of my life, despite this like terrible daytime Sarah. Nighttime Sarah was living it up. Daytime Sarah was miserable, a wreck, angry, rageful, anxiety ridden, panic attacks left and right, denying and ignoring the grief of her past 10 years of living with her father dying every day and being so sick. And then there came a moment where, in discovering like, okay, my purpose right now for me to be able to get anything done in life is to get healthier and to get happier. So that became my purpose. And during difficult moments, because I had that as my goal, I would shut off everything else and just say, nope. The only thing that matters right now is me getting better, is me getting stronger, is me feeling more comfortable in my skin, is me coming to know my soul. So I did that. And I would shut things off. No, 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 no. And it was super weird. And at times it felt very woo-woo. And I'm like, what am I doing? Is this actually helping me at all? But it did. And over time, it did start to feel more comfortable. And over time, I did start to notice that certain things that would have sent me off were no longer doing that. I was still heavily abusing alcohol, and that was something that would take a number of years more for me to be able to break the chains with. I lived in Philadelphia. It was the club and bar scene was like absolutely popping during this time. I was a publicist, had to be out and about canoodling and like schmoozing. And my best friend and I would just go out every night and dance. And like, yeah, there'd be a couple drinks here or there, but like, it was just a really great way for me to open a door that I was not willing to open myself during the daytime when sober. And I would let the joy and the passion of dancing and being with my best friend and vibing, just like loving life, fill up the little holes of me. But it was a superficial love. It wasn't an I see you love. It was a here, take this, we'll feel better kind of love. But being able to navigate difficult transitions in my life by knowing at this point that my purpose was making myself better absolutely helped. It absolutely drowned out the noise. And it kept me on track when I had absolutely zero motivation to do anything. There was also such a deluge of information for me and what I was absorbing at the time regarding the science behind purpose and the impact that it has on our mental wellness, our mental health, our interpersonal relationships and their well-being. There was just so much to how we interact as humans physiologically, our cortisol, our hormone receptors, everything is so much different when you're operating from a place of purpose. And for me, it started to feel as though the panic inside was starting to be replaced with confidence because my purpose, over proving it again and again and again, day in and day out, and showing myself that I could continue to evolve and grow, did start to instill a confidence in me that led me to raise my expectations of myself. It also led me to raise my standards. And this I cannot take credit for because Ed Milet, my Taurus brother, my great mentor in my head, shared this in an episode about standards, as well as in his book, The Power of One More. Read it. It's amazing. And in hearing that, I was like, aha, this is what has been missing. I've been doing the work, but I'm not setting higher standards and I'm not setting higher expectations for myself. So in that big aha moment of hearing Ed say that, I was then able to tweak and tweak and tweak. And after a week, I'd be like, you know what? I'm ready for a little bit more. Tweak. And it really did just begin to completely unhinge the coils that were around me in these really just unserving ways of behaving that I just simply began to shed and replaced with other behaviors. Now, what are some of the barriers to finding purpose? There's most certainly going to be external expectations, whether it's from your boss, your friends, your husband, your wife, family members, your parents, versus your internal desires. Like, what is it that you want? Are you willing to get it? Is fear standing in your way? Now, I had a really big problem with fear of change. And for me, I became way too comfortable with the familiar. Like, I'm like a pig in shit with comfort. I'm a Taurus. I'm a tried and true Taurus through and through. And comfort was an addiction for me. It was my drug of choice. And alcohol was just my fun juice at nighttime. I didn't need alcohol to survive. It just numbed the feelings. But comfort, she was my drug. And I knew that I had to start embracing fear and I had to start treating it like a challenge. And I had to not only embrace that challenge, but I then had to look for the lesson in the struggle or the suffering of the challenge to then be able to level up so that the next time is a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And it sounds simple to say at this space, nearly 15 years later. However, if you find yourself in that space where you're like, shut up, like you're annoying me with all of this ease that you just say this because I feel like crap. And life doesn't feel like it's going to get any easier by me finding my purpose. I feel you. When I say I feel you, I feel you. It's just like, this is where you need to take a tiny bit of faith, just jump off that cliff and let the faith sail your ass down, because this is one of those times where you've got no choice but to trust. And it may be one of the first times ever you're allowing yourself to even attempt to trust you. So we got this, okay? Stick with me. So the paralysis of too many options is absolutely something that modern life has heaved on us in such a gross way. I'm an 80s baby, so I can tell you there's been an absolute distinct change, and the overwhelm that has come with it seems very purposeful. It keeps us distracted. It keeps us from looking at what's most important. And I think in a really big way, there is so much to be said about so many of us being stuck. If we're all stuck, we can't heal. If we can't heal ourselves, we can't help to heal others. If we can't help to heal others, there is no empathy. If there is no empathy, there is no long change. If there is no long change, there is no well-being for us as a people. So modernity and the way in which and the pace in which we live life is certainly going to shake some shit up, and it's going to make stuff really uncomfortable, especially when you find yourself in this place of prioritizing your purpose and not only removing the barriers to find it, but once you're on the inkling of it, leaning into that and allowing yourself to trust that, even though modern day life wants us to believe that everything should be now, 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 now. Not with your purpose, baby. It takes time. Now, when we're looking for practical strategies for discovering our purpose, for me, I started using some reflection techniques. I wanted to do some not only value assessments, but I wanted to know where my life had been and gone so far. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing and that it had a name, but I would do visualization work. I would get, being quite frank here, high AF, and I would lay on my couch with my cat and I would just let thoughts come to me, and then I would just play with them and move them and roll them around and think about what could be and picture things that I hadn't been able to live yet, but thought I might want. And also in giving myself a life review, it began to become clear to me that I was numbing myself with alcohol in a way that I needed to take a look at. And that life review was very helpful with that. I also needed to kind of force myself on this path of like, in looking for my purpose, especially once I knew that, like, all right, I want to be a better person, but like, what does that mean? What are the parameters I need to work on? Where am I lacking? Like, are there any people that I admire that I'd like to, I aspire to be like them, but in my own way. And I needed to kind of experiment with new experiences, new environments, new people. In doing that, especially at the young age that I was at, it was really fun to just get to try on different shoes every day and see what people do and pick and choose the parts of it that I liked. I now know that I was reparenting myself. I now know that I relied on guided visualizations, that I sent myself on to be able to picture places that could feel like something I would want to explore more. And then I went and explored it. And in following the curiosity rather than waiting for certainty on my purpose and what the exact parameters were, I began to feel the flow of it all, the flow of the growth and the flow of my purpose coming to me and unraveling itself to me like a new flower. Every time I looked at it, there was a new petal, a new angle, a new leaf that I just hadn't had time to look at before. And it was really exciting. And my brain certainly loved that kind of investigative work for myself because I love facts and information. But I've spoken to others that process, neurologically in different ways. And it was also a fun process for them that they began to not only really enjoy, but really get into, want to be a part of. Now, when we are living with our purpose daily, this is where the work sets in pretty deeply because we now know what our standards are. We now know what our expectations are. And we are every day looking to get 1% better in that purpose, 1% more solid, 1% more dedicated, and 1% more confident. So these smaller actions that are aligning with your greater purpose are going to help you with that 1% a day growth. They're not only going to help with that growth, but they're slowly aligning your course closer and closer with your purpose. And it will evolve over time. You want it to evolve over time because we are evolving beings, and you best believe that our purpose needs to grow and expand in order for us to continue growing and expanding. You also want to build a community that supports your purpose journey. It's so rewarding to find others that are on a self-growth path, period. And if that's where you need to start, then that's a great place to start. Not everyone is going to have the same purpose. However, you can find numbers of people that are looking for their purpose, or they found it and they're looking to get stronger in it. Surround yourself with these people, especially in the beginning, because it's going to help you to feel as though you're not only on the right path, but that you have found such a beautiful, not only landscape of just growth ahead of you, but people to enjoy it with. And finally, as I just stated before, I got ahead of myself. Adapting your purpose through different life stages is so integral. God gives us the challenges and the burdens and the cup that we need to expand into to make us into the person that we need to be for greater challenges and greater purposes ahead. So always, always look at every day in front of you as a stepping stone to the next one up. You are always improving. And it is such a blessing and a gift to be able to do so and to be one of those individuals that are awake and are on the path of aligning with their greater goals, their purposes, and their soul's journey. It means so much to me, my Richies, to have your ears and your eyes if you're watching on YouTube. We have a beautiful episode coming up on Sunday for our next Sunday strategy session, learning the ropes of faith as a new believer. And we have a really fun episode coming up on Thursday. These next few episodes are going to be solos with me, but the following week we have some awesome conversations coming up that I know you are absolutely going to enjoy. My Richies, I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And as always, make life rich.